All right. So speaking of deployments and combat missions, not just simulated in training for leadership purposes, but actually now you check into SEAL Team 3. One of the neat things about the time that I was an instructor is like looking at the crew of fucking dudes that went through that time, and then the mid 2000s. 04 to fucking 09, like 09, 08, like that block of time, like, holy fuck, for the community. I mean, it's just, it's reminiscent of the stories from Vietnam,
Yes.
the mid 60s type of thing when it was at full swing, 65 to 69 type of similarities in terms of just just nonstop fucking work getting put in. And, you were at that, right place, right time, in terms of your career and where you were at and whatever. And I know some of it you can't talk about, but some of it you can. And so I'd love to get into, if you could kind of chronologically outline just your time at Team 3, what it was like checking in and kind of the feelings. Because I know, like, for me, when I checked into Team 3, it was pre 9/11. It's very different.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to get your take as, now that we'd been, in full-blown fucking war in Afghanistan and Iraq for a period of time. What was that like checking in?
It was awesome. Like I told SQT was great for me. We had solid instructors, except for that one that got fired.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Talk about that another time, not on this podcast.
Yeah.
So.
We'll just say fishnet tops. Right? Yeah, we're talking about the same guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, get sidetracked.
Yep. Anyway, I don't know. I was always drawn to Team 3.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if I had talked to like you and other instructors that I thought were legit guys that I looked up to, that just something about 3. I wanted to go there. And I didn't know where I was going until I was in, it was after SQT when I was in cold weather training up in Kodiak, Alaska. Like, everyone else knew where they were going, and Seth and I were still trying to figure out where we were going. And, then all of a sudden find out we're going to Team 3, and I was fired up. And I found out we're going to Delta Platoon together. I was like,
fucking A.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I remember, Seth going, hey, always have a notebook and a pen with you. Mechanical pencils are better because, a pen might fail, but a mechanical pencil, you can at least have it. And, and I'm like, okay, roger that, sir. And I remember, so we're graduating from SQT, and there's a couple other guys that went to Team 3 as well. One of them's actually, it's crazy for me to think about. We went through Buds and SQT together. And now he's a command master chief.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking
I'm
wild.
Like, yeah.
Like, what
really
the
happy
fuck?
I got out. No, I love what I do. You know what I mean? But I think about that. I mean, I would be a couple years away from a full-blown retirement. I'd be a senior chief or master chief by now for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe an E5. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Which, I'd be fine with.
Yeah. Fucking sled dog for life.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
But then also you look at what you can do in being in a position of leadership.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal as well. And so anyway, I check into SEAL Team 3 and going around, I meet my platoon chief. Our platoon chief actually came over and then brought us over, and we're walking around the team. And I'm just like meeting guys and, taking notes of the little stuff. And I've always been the like, hey, let's be friends. Like, I was never like I never had that tough guy, like, I'm a hard ass, like, let's just size each other up thing. I was just like, hey, how you doing? My name is JP, like, we're working together. We're going to be friends. Like, you know what I mean?
You want to do karate in the garage
yeah,
or what?
exactly. Like, I thought, which it's funny, like, so I'm that young new guy checking into the SEAL team like that. And you know how the old guys are towards the new guys. And I quickly learned to keep my mouth shut and just.
They don't want to be your friend right away.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And rightfully so. Like, hey, why is this guy even here? Like, well, he doesn't deserve a seat at the table. He's got to earn that seat. Yeah. And I love that mentality. Yeah. And Seth kind of talked to me about it. He's like, hey, JP, man. He's like, we're in the SEAL teams now. Like, you got to. I know you're friendly, go happy, go lucky guy. You're always talkative. You need to shut up. Like,
Same Mr. Rogers' name.
Yeah, exactly. You just need to absorb it, take notes, be humble. Yeah. And he's like, we're going to do this together. And I mean, when I think about stuff like that, I just Seth was such a good person, you know. And so I check in the team, and you know, we find out all of our stuff, and they're like, hey, you're leaving in a couple of days to head out to the desert to go to an off-road Hummer driving and racing school. You got to be back here Sunday at this time. You're gonna go over to supply, get all your gear, everything else like that. And I was like,
That's
you've got to be kidding me.
That's one of those schools you're like, am I on a hidden camera show right now? Like, you're going to fucking pay me to go off-road shit? Like,
off-road Hummer driving and racing and navigation school.
Yeah.
Check. So go out to the desert, do that. That's where I became really close friends with Derek Benson. We found out he was a buzz class ahead of me. He was in class 241 with Leif. And then, they hold the officers back. They do the officer training. And then that's when Leif and Seth came into my SQT class. So I knew Derek really well. We became like best friends out there. And from that point on, we were just always hanging out, like just started, both rode street bikes, started racing bikes, just always together.
Yeah.
And so we do that workup. We're getting ready to head overseas to do the capture kill mission that you guys have done and other guys that were doing over there. And I mean, it's such a badass mission. Yeah. That is the Navy SEAL mission. Yeah. Cool. I'm going to go sneak in at night on night vision. I'm going to blow open the front door, or I'm going to pick the lock. We're going to go get the guy out of his bed. We're going to catch him by surprise. We're going to kill the guys that try to fight back, that have weapons. Awesome. So that's what we're doing our whole workup for. That's what we're planning, blah, blah, blah. And then like 5 weeks before we deploy, we find out that we're taking over the personal security detail mission. And we're like,
you're welcome.
You've got to be kidding me. And so we go to like a week and a half, maybe 2 week school tops with the Secret Service to basically like, hey,
here's your diamond.
Here's your basic. Yeah, here's your basics, right? Yeah. It was really cool working with those guys, and I hadn't deployed yet. I was a new guy. I was only 19 or 20 at this time, but to show the level of intensity of training in third phase SQT and then doing a workup, we were doing scenarios against these guys, and these guys have been doing that for 10, 15, 20 years, right, with the Secret Service. Yeah. And they were like, we've never worked with a group that can shoot and move like you guys.
Oh,
like
shit.
We would crush them in scenarios.
God, that's
crush
awesome.
them. Like absolutely soul crush them.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not talking down on Secret Service. It's just different levels of training, right? And those guys were like, if we can ever help you guys, you know what I mean? And it was really cool because of us getting to work with those guys. And then them, and for me, for what I took from that was like, wow, we are just at a different level when it comes to our training, the amount of time that we put in. And so that kind of made me think more of like just being like, hey, what we get to do is amazing. Not everyone gets this level of training.
Yeah. And
so went over on that deployment. We're doing the personal security detail for the top 7 dignitaries in Iraq during the election time frame. Oh, it sucks. You think from you're going to be on the offense to now you're on the defense.
Yeah.
I was young, I was immature, and I had a really shitty attitude. I was not happy to be there. And it showed. I remember one of the old guys, his nickname's Pepper. He had to tune me up.
Yeah.
He had a little conversation with me.
Pepper.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
And, I remember he talked to me. He's like, hey, I did my first workup and we were getting ready to deploy and I had to have surgery. And I missed out on the initial push into Afghanistan. Like, how do you think that made me feel? He's like, look around at what we're getting to do. We're in civilian clothes. We're in low-vis body armor. We're in heated and air-conditioned, fully armored SUVs. We're traveling all over Iraq to keep this guy safe. And he's a good guy. He's a good, good Assyrian Christian. And, he wants change and he's trying to make things, happen over here. And you have a shitty attitude because you're not getting to go and do DAs right now. Grow up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember we were sitting in one of our vehicles outside the tent and he pulled me in there and I was sitting in the driver's seat and he sat in the passenger seat. And I thought he was going to beat my ass inside there, and he should have, and because I was in the wrong 100%. And I just remember that conversation. I was like, check. Yeah. Okay. And that kind of set me straight. And then we went through the rest of that. I think he also wrote something up like on paper and he was just like, hey, I'm gonna hold on to this.
Yeah.
If your attitude continues to be the same, it's going to be official. If not, I'll put it over in that burn pit over there, before we leave. And that was the good little tune-up I needed. I needed that good old guy to just be hard on me and just say, hey, man.
Life could be worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've always known that. My parents always instilled that into me, and I was just being a little prick, right? Yeah. And so, but from that point on, it really changed my mindset into regards to like, I get to do this, right? On deployment, I get to do this. And I had that mindset going through BUDS. I knew I was lucky to be there, but I had kind of lost sight of that. And it just took somebody reminding me of that. Yeah. And then, so we do that deployment. We feel good about it. Everything's good. We keep those guys safe. Nothing major happens to those guys on that deployment. And then we hear that things are starting to get kind of wild out west, in Ramadi. And we're like, what? This insurgency term starting to be thrown out there. And we hear that it's legit out there. And so we come back, getting ready to do another workup. Jocko comes in as our task unit commander. Now, I had heard about Jocko. I knew his reputation, and he held the line. There's no slack when it came to him, and I was fired up about that. And we had an awesome workout, and Jocko gave us that mindset of extreme ownership, and he held the line and he held the standards hard, and he took care of us, and he showed us what leadership was all about. Leadership capital, and building that up with your guys, and when to use it, when to expend it, and when to save it. And so I just learned a lot from Jocko and Leif and Seth, and then we deployed to Ramadi, and it was amazing. That was the wet
dream deployment.
Yes, that was the most amazing deployment ever. I mean, we were in gunfights almost every single day. Yeah. And being able to work with those soldiers and Marines that we worked with was insane. Yeah. I mean, those guys are hardened combat warriors. We showed up to Ramadi and the 228, or they're a National Guard unit out of Pennsylvania. If anybody knows anything about the National Guard, I mean, they're not trained properly. They don't have the right gear. They don't have anything.
That's not their gig.
That's not their gig. Absolutely. And they got pulled over to Ramadi. And when we showed up, they had been in combat every single day for 14 months.
God damn.
14 months straight of fighting in the worst area in the world.
They had to have taken some serious fucking heavies, huh?
No, they did. They did. 94 were killed in action. Damn. Over 300 were wounded when we showed up, and they controlled less than a third of the city.
Do you know ballpark what size unit that was? That those numbers came out of?
Dude, I really should. I can't even think right now.
Significant.
Though. Yeah, it was significant for sure.
I mean, 94. One significant.
Yeah, one significant, but 94. I mean, that's ridiculous. And over 300 wounded. Fuck, and they only controlled less than a third of the city. That's how bad it was there. Yeah. There was estimated between 4,000 to 5,000 enemy fighters in that region at that time. Yeah. And I remember we were replacing a different task unit, and that task unit leadership told Jocko and Leif and Seth, like, hey, if you guys go into this area, you're going to get almost all your guys killed. Like, you're going to get your guys wounded. You're going to get your guys killed. Nobody's going to be able to go in there and get you guys. Don't go there. It's stupid, right? And
so what do we do?
That's where we're going to go. And no, but obviously Jocko, they didn't want anybody to get wounded or killed. But I tell this to companies all the time. What do you accomplish from the sidelines?
Yeah, zero.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, get in the fight. Figure out if it's even worth fighting for. And if it is worth fighting for you, then get in the fight. Yeah. And realize that there's going to be some sacrifice. It's going to be hard work, but get to work. Yeah. And that's what we did. And you know what? We were honored to serve the 228, to support them in any way possible. It didn't matter. And I still have emails in one of my old accounts from other team guys going, what in the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. This isn't what team guys do. Yeah. We don't do daytime urban presence patrols. Well, guess what? They needed us. They were asking for additional gunfire. When they found out SEALs were in the area, they said, well, this is what we're doing. Can you guys help? Can you support in any way possible? And we're like, yeah, cool. And then,
well, yeah, I mean, to me, like I would disagree with those guys. I mean, to me, that's exactly what SEALs do.
Yes,
we do what the fuck needs to be done.
We get the job done. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That was one of the neatest things about the time I was there, which was earlier. But some of the things that we did were so far outside the fucking scope of what I ever thought we would be doing. But it was like, yeah, it was, hey, can you go check this fucking bridge and route out that we're going to be bringing the entire 1st Marine Division through tomorrow morning? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like at that time, there were lines, you know,
Yes.
there were, you know, enemy lines and advances in terms of where our military had gone and hadn't gone. And we were going past that with 4, you know, unarmored fucking shitbird Humvees, you know, 2 of which didn't even have doors on them, you know, by ourselves. Like, I mean, they didn't even, they were like, what in the fuck? Like, cause they weren't expecting 4 Humvees to be driving around.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, what the fuck? Like, you know, we were getting looked at like this, like in bewilderment, you know,
Yeah.
but anyway, my point is that doing stuff like that, I agree. Like, to me, that's what, from my perspective, and I love that we share that, you know, that principled approach to being a team guy is that you do what's asked of you to the best of your ability and you figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah,
you know?
no excuses.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, one of the shirts I almost wore, and I wish I would have, is just because it ties into what we just said. You know, it's one of the shirts from Echelon Front. You know, Leif talks about it just being default aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, that is our mode.
Yeah.
We don't know anything else other than that.
Yeah.
And that's not like going out and getting a bar fight or towards somebody. It's just getting stuff done, making it happen.
Yeah.
You know, taking the fight to your enemy, whatever your enemy is.
Yeah.
We all have enemies. We all are dealing with different enemies.
Yeah.
Take the fight to your enemy.
Yeah.
Quit being complacent. You know, if you looked at how we patrolled in the streets, our chests were out, our head was up, and we were scanning for threats.
Yeah.
We weren't like hunkered ever. We were never like that.
Yeah.
We were ready to get in a fight. We hunted them.
Yeah.
We started hunting the enemy. We took the fight to them, and that's what made the difference in Ramadi. And then, you know, a month later, the 11 AD replaced the 228, and the AD stands for Armored Division.
Yeah.
Armored is tanks.
Yeah.
Dude,
Rock and roll.
sexy creations right there. Those are, the invention of a tank is, in my mind, the greatest invention that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I've been in buildings pinned down by suppressive enemy fire while we were running low on ammo, because we've been in a gunfight for hours, right? Back and forth, trying to keep the high ground, trying to protect soldiers on the streets, trying to protect our SEALs on the streets, patrolling with Marines and soldiers and Iraqi soldiers, and a combat outpost trying to be built. And we're like, hey, we're running out of ammo. We need tank support. And we get on the radio and we call them for tank support. And those guys would be like, Roger that, we're headed your way. That's a really good feeling.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And then when those tanks get in front of your building and you just hear that, like of that turret moving, and you're like, hey, you know, Leif talks about it in both the books that Leif and Jocko wrote, Extreme Ownership and The Dichotomy of Leadership, about, you know, firing into a building's window where the enemy fires are with a full magazine of tracer rounds so that they know where it's coming from. Yeah. And then that tank just turns that way and it's like, bah, 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 bah.
Yeah.
And they just start, oh, guess what? Those enemy fighters will never, ever be an issue again. You know, and those guys came to our aid every single time we asked them to, if they were not already helping somebody else, every single time. And that was amazing, because in Ramadi, there were silos obviously at the beginning, right? Army, Marine Corps, Navy. But Ramadi was all about one team, one fight. It didn't matter who got the credit. It didn't matter as long as we won, because they told us Ramadi was an unwinnable war. You know, a quote from the Marine Corps was from an intelligence officer, was actually leaked to the press. And it said the social and political situation has deteriorated to a point that U.S. and Iraqi troops are no longer capable of militarily defeating the insurgency in Al Anbar.
That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, and we're like, check, okay. You know, and that it was just to see that and to see what these soldiers did. I mean, those guys are over there for 15 months at a time. To see what the Marines were doing, the living conditions they had.
That's World War II shit.
Yeah, it was. You know, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go out to that small forward operating base on the eastern side of Ramadi. It was myself, 6 other SEALs, and an interpreter. And we were working with the 1st 506 Infantry Division, the famous Band of Brothers. That's who I got to work with.
First of the 506.
Dude, I mean, just to be able to work with those guys was phenomenal. But that fob that we lived on, Full Metal Jacket, was a building that I lived in. It was Camp Corregidor. That building was an old blown out building that was part of a university. And that the building was built up with sandbags and plywood, and we had dirt floors, and we built up little rooms in there. I mean, it was hard living conditions, but that's what I wanted. Like, that's what we all wanted. We're like, yes, because if it's shitty here, that means that we're in it. That's we're going to be in the fight. I'm not on some big built up base where I can go get Domino's or Subway or Starbucks.
Rocky IV style.
Yes. That is the best correlation anybody's ever given. It was Rocky IV style. You know, there, you know, a lot of times our chow hall got hit by mortars. And so we were eating MREs. The shower tents, you know, I talked about on Jocko's podcast, the shower tents got hit by mortars, you know, and it's like, cool. Well, how do you shower? You take your water bottle, you poke holes in the top of it. Your buddy stands on a chair and squeezes it over you. And that's how, you know, you kind of wash up or you baby wipe up. And that it was, you know, there's just.
And he gets your back while he's in it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah. And so it was just, you know, it was hard living, but it was awesome. And I miss those days, you know, of sleeping on an air mattress that was on a bed that you made out of 2x4s and plywood, and the door is a poncho liner, and you know, Mikey was right next to me. Another guy, the Badger, he's still in, was right next to me, and he taught me a lot about being a sniper in the SEAL teams as well. Phenomenal individual. I saw him at Seth's funeral, and I was like, bro. It was so good to see him, but I was just like looking at his dress uniform. Literally, his trident.
It was like on his scapula.
It is on the top of his trap.
Yeah.
That his rack is just insane.
No, I know it.
You know, and so it's funny when people are always like, oh, thank you. You did 3 combat deployments. I'm like, I'm a quitter. I got out early. Like, I have buddies on their 10th, 11th, 12th combat deployment. Guys are still in the fight, you know. I didn't really do much, you know, but Ramadi was legit, and we got to do a lot of good stuff. The cost of Ramadi was heavy though, man. I mean, we lost Mark Lee, the first Navy SEAL killed in Iraq. You know, I was talking to him the week before he was killed. You know, he was going to buy a house for his wife and surprise her, and you know, then start a family. And the same day Mark was killed, Ryan Job was shot in the face, gravely wounded. I mean, completely blind. He was in Germany. Coming back to the United States, his high school sweetheart quits nursing school so she can take care of him. You know, he summits Mount Rainier. He's completely blind, no sense of smell, no sense of taste, but living life to the fullest. Gets a business degree with a 4.0. And then the week that him and his wife found out they're having a baby girl, he goes in for his 22nd surgery and dies, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that whole story is fucking just heartbreaking. Do you know what happened with it? Was it just complications?
Just complications, man. And then...
Yeah, it's
the hard one is, you know, I just, you know, if you ever, like, guys will see me like from stage talking or on podcasts, like you see that scar there. Like, I cut my finger down to the bone, and they thought I was going to lose my finger, and so I got flown out of Ramadi to another base to have surgery because they thought like, and you know, the only mission I missed out on was that last one when Mikey was killed.
Yeah,
and. You know, Mikey Monsoor, he was like one of my new guys. You know, he was my security gunner. When I was a point man and or acting as a sniper, he was always by my side, always. And I wasn't there for him. You know, I wasn't there on that mission, and that, you know, there's a lot of guilt from that. And, you know, for a while there's a lot of darkness, and there's a lot of questions and doubt, anger, all that stuff. But I mean, you can't sit there and focus on all that.
No,
you can't, because where does that get you?
Nowhere.
It gets you nowhere. And those feelings that I had are no different than the feelings that anybody else that's listening to this podcast has felt. We've all felt all those things in your life. Mm-hmm. And you have to look at all the good that you've done and the good that you can do. You can't sit there and, you know, focus on all the bad stuff in your past. It gets you nowhere. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with the gift that you have? And there's been a couple different scenarios throughout my career that I was very fortunate where I was still able to be alive, you know, and you have to take those lessons that you learned and pass on. I mean, Battle of Ramadi was ridiculous. I mean, you know, 9 Abram battle tanks were completely destroyed. You know, the big, huge Abram battle tanks, 9 of those were gone. 15 Bradley fighting vehicles, 34 Humvees. Yeah. 98 guys were killed in action, and over 500 were wounded.
And what time span was that?
So 61 were killed in action during our 6 months with them.
Yeah. And
then during their whole time over there, 15 months, 98 total were killed in action.
Yeah. Fucking Christ. That whole operation and the Sunni Triangle during that time was, I remember, I was back as an instructor, and Mikey Monsoor was actually the first student that I had that had died in training. And for me, like, I'll never forget going to his funeral. Like, to this day, I mean, I've had, because I didn't really know him. I mean, I vaguely remembered him from being one of his instructors. But, I had guys, Glenn and Ty were two of my closest friends.
Dude, Ty was such an amazing guy.
Yeah. But of all of the funerals that I've been to, that to this day, and I have no doubt for the rest of my fucking life, was the toughest. Yeah. Because of the circumstances, and it was it almost felt like, by no means is this me saying I was a father figure in his life, because I wasn't, but having been one of his instructors, and that being the first student that had been lost in combat since I was an instructor, just something about that hit me so fucking hard. Like, even the Temple of the Dog song, Say Hello to Heaven, was played to this day. I mean, it's been 13 fucking years, 12, 13 years. To this day, I can't listen to that fucking song. Like, the second it comes on, I change the fucking channel.
Well, I mean, but you say you weren't, but you were a father figure, because that's what we did in the teams when we were instructors. And it didn't matter if those guys were younger than us, our age, or older. I was at Trada after Ramadi. I got pulled from SEAL Team 3 because I had to have surgery, and I couldn't. I had some issues with that surgery, and so I couldn't stay at SEAL Team 3, which was heartbreaking to me, because I was supposed to be, back in, we're supposed to be going to Solder City. And Mike Sorelli, who was on the rooftop with Mikey, was the OIC of that platoon that I got pulled from.
Yeah.
Like, it just killed me to be pulled from that, and I go to Buds, and I'm at Buds for a couple of months, and Jocko pulls me over to Trade. And so, I mean, one of the Buds class I was a Buds instructor for was class 265. 265 has the most amount of guys that have been killed from one single Buds class.
Oh, shit.
I think there's like 6 guys from that class have been killed. And I knew those guys. Those guys were legit warriors, right? And then they come through training, and I'm at Trade as one of the for a year, I was the LPO, the leading petty officer, in charge of all of our urban warfare training. So all the SALC training that we did, I ran all that stuff. And so I remember all these guys coming through training, and then I was also a CQC instructor in addition to doing the SALC training. And so you just get to know all these guys, and then you find out that they get killed, and it's just, and I was younger than a lot of these guys, and I still felt like what you just described, because it's like, did I not teach them? Is there something I didn't do? But it's also the camaraderie and the brotherhood that we have, because at any point, if you're a good team guy, if you would have done exactly what they did, if you would have been in those positions and actually deploying to combat, and not avoiding it. Yeah,
no shit. To me, there's an inherent sense of responsibility that you feel for it, and you can't help but feel that.
It's hard to explain. I've tried to explain it to guys and I just, it's just one of those things I chalk up, and I just tell people, hey, there's a few things in life that you just can't explain, and this is one of those things.
That and women.
Yeah.
So going back to you mentioned the introduction of the tanks. I would like to talk about that for a second. Would you say that was a game changer in terms of your guys' presence there? Like, totally flipped the script?
Absolutely.
Is that when you were mentioning the slow spinning of the turret? Like, it reminds me of when you're going up on a fucking roller coaster. Like, it's that like that super slow, and it's super. The anticipation is the hardest part of it, or the worst, or the most exciting, depending upon which end you're on. But can you describe kind of the once the implementation of that? Did you notice like kind of a paradigm shift in terms of? I can only assume that now the enemy's tactics had to have been, adapted to that. And what was that like once they showed up?
I mean, those guys we were fighting were smart. People are like, oh, dumb. I was like, no,
they're fucking smart.
They're very smart. They're still alive. They're still in the game. Like I didn't grow up hunting, but I always ask when I talk to companies, I say, hey, any hunters in the room? The guys would be like, raise their hands. Like, hell yeah. Like guys are getting all excited. I'm like, hey, does a buck get big by being dumb?
Yeah.
Every single time. Guys just start shaking their head. They're like, hell no. And I'm like, these guys were still alive because they were smart.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing. They were evil evil people. And they had no rules. Yeah. We had rules that we had to adhere to. They had no rules. Mm-hmm. And so they had to adapt to that, you know? And I will say, like, the soldiers and Marines that we worked with, they were default aggressive also. So you have soldiers, Marines, and SEALs that are being told, like, hey, this is unwinnable. You can't win. And the leadership from all those units are like, no, we're going to win. And this is how we're going to win. And then that attitude is reflected in down to their own guys. It's contagious. And guys start to believe that they can win. Mm-hmm. We believed in it. We believed that we were going to win in the Battle of Ramadi. The soldiers that we worked with, they believed in it. The Marines that we worked with, everybody freaking believed in it. And we just got to work.